So, hi guys, it's your cyber girl, Belle. I am happy to be with you to take you through this John the Ripper, the basics room in TryHackMe. Just a kind note. I am just new to this thing. I'm also trying to learn, trying to break into cybersecurity like you, and just trying to figure this out. So I'm not an expert at this. I just recently completed the room. As you can see, I have completed the room, but it's just a way of me to learn and also to help someone out there if it's possible with my little knowledge. So as you can see, I've completed the room, but I will just take you through what I had done. I think I've completed this room, I think 2 days ago. So it's just going through it for myself to also learn, but also to help someone out there. And so you also have to do your own background check, information reading, so that you can get a better grasp at the content. But yeah, so let's go through this room and see how it goes. So first is introduction. Uh-huh. For maximum benefit, I am going way ahead of myself, so sorry. So John the Ripper is a well-known, well-loved, and versatile hashing cracking tool. It combines first cracking speed with an extraordinary range of compatible hash types. So another mention, I'm new to the field, so some of the words I might butcher them, but as long as you get the point, as long as you can read them. So yeah. So the learning prerequisites for maximum benefit, we recommend you attend these rooms after the first three introductory rooms about cryptography, which I've also done. It's recommended. It's not a must, but it's recommended if you do not have the basic or the foundational knowledge in cryptography. Um, there are no other learning prerequisite except basic command line abilities. So you need to have a bit of Linux, how do I put it? Basic, like how to change directories, to list the directories and to list the files in a directory, like such. Yeah. Learning objectives. Upon the completion of this room, you will learn about using John for cracking Windows authentication hashes, crack etc shadow hashes. These are now for Windows is NTLM, if I'm not wrong. Then for this is for Linux. This is where they store their passwords. Then cracking password protected zip files and cracking password protected RAR files, RAR files. Then cracking SSH keys. SSH is mostly secure shell. Yeah, if I'm not wrong, secure shell refers to cryptographic network protocol used in secure communication between devices. So yeah. So starting with task 4, you need to apply either on the attached VM, the attack box, or on your own system. For convenience, you can download the required task file as a single zip file from this task by pressing the download task file below. So as we're just going to use the task box provided by TryHackMe. So let's begin. So, task two, the basic terms. This room requires basic knowledge of various cryptography terms. For your convenience, we review the most relevant terms and concepts before we move into practical hash cracking. What are hashes? Hashes is a way of taking a piece of data of any length and representing it in another fixed length form. Yeah, this process makes original value of the data. The hash value is obtained by running the original data through a hashing algorithm. Many popular hashing algorithm exist, such as MD4, MD5. The list goes on and on. Let's try and show this with an example. The example I can tell you is maybe your password that you use to log into your account. Then they take that piece of data, which is your password, and then they represent it. They pass it through a hashing algorithm. These are the algorithms that they pass through, and then when they pass through that hashing algorithm, they create a fixed length form, which is the hash value. So yeah, So an example here, if we take polo, a string of four characters, and run it through MD5, which is a hashing algorithm, we will end up with this output. That's an example that they use. Some of these things you can read. What makes hashes secure? Hashing functions are designed as one-way functions. In other words, it is easy to calculate the hash value of a given out input. However, it is a hard problem to find the original input given the hash value. What they mean is you've provided your password, it has run through the hashing algorithm. Now you have the hash value. When you have the hash value, it will be difficult for you to work backwards to find what the password is. That's why making hashes are secure. So these are the examples in computer science. So what? Yeah, some of these things you can read through them to just get a better grasp of what hashing is, yeah, the basic terms. So they say this is where Joan comes in. Even though the algorithm is not feasibly reversible, that doesn't mean cracking the hashes is impossible. If you have the hashed version of a password, for example, and you know the hashing algorithm, you can use that hashing algorithm to hash a large number of words called a dictionary. You can then compare these hashes to the one you're trying to crack to see if they match. If they do, you know that the word corresponds to that hash and you've cracked it. The process is called the dictionary attack. And the and John the Ripper, or John as it's commonly shortened, is a tool for conducting fast brute force attacks on these various hashes. For some in-depth material on encryption and decryption, recommend, yeah, as they mentioned, you if you don't have a basic foundational grasp of cryptography and hashing, it's advisable and recommended that you go through the first three rooms before you get into John. So as they've said, you need to go through this these rooms before you can get through this one. This room will focus on the most popular extended version of John the Ripper, Jumbo John. I guess there are different versions of John the Ripper. So, what is the most popular? So, for the first question, which is the most popular extended version of John the Ripper, Jumbo John? So, that is correct. So, we go to task 3. Throughout the task of this room will be using the following: the Jumbo John version of John the Ripper, the ROQ password list, the ROQ password list. If you've gone through the previous rooms that they mentioned above, under hashing basics, there's a ROQ password list which ideally was gotten from a data breach from the ROQ company, whereby I don't know if I'm getting this straight, whereby there was a data breach and they had stored the passwords using in plain text, so they weren't hashed. So when there was a data breach and they they got the password list, so people use it to crack the hashes, as they've mentioned before in the previous rooms. As you can see in the previous task, to use John, you need sort of like a list of what you're comparing this password to. I think that is what they've mentioned about here. For you to use John, you need to sort of what is the example here? Even though John is not that means if you have the hashed version of a password, for example, and you know the hashing algorithm, you can use that hashing algorithm to hash a large number of words called a dictionary. You can then compare these hashes to the one you're trying to crack to see if, because ideally most people, sometimes people don't like, they companies, organization will insist have better passwords, but people will use the most common and easy to remember password. So most likely people have the same passwords out there. So what John does is use the hash value that you have and compare it to a list. So the ROQ list that they're mentioning here is that list that most people use to crack passwords. Uh-huh. So this is just about installing the John the Ripper, but since we're going to use the TryHackMe platform, we do not need to go through all of it, but you can if you have your own setup. So we're going to start the machine and see if we can do it. The internet is a bit slow, so let's give it time, just a bit of time. So yeah, it's starting. As it starts, we're going to let it load up first. Which website breach was the rockq.txt word list created from? As I had mentioned before, it's rockq.com. I think they mention. I don't know if they mention it here again, but in the previous rooms they do mention it. Rockq.com was a company that created social media website, and they sort of stored users' passwords in plain text form. And there was a data breach, and from that data breach, people were able to obtain a list. I think there were 14 million users, and they were able to have a list of 14 million passwords. So when you're using John or any other platform to crack the hash, you can use that list to compare the passwords and the hashes. Yeah. So that's ideally it. I don't know. I'm not sure if the machine has loaded up. Just a second, just a second. So, as I mentioned, I'm also still new to this, so please just bear with me. I want to take this into what full screen, but it has not loaded up yet very well. So, just a second. We're gonna give it. We have 30 seconds going. Oh, it's loading up so slowly. So yeah. So as we wait for it, you can just put it down in the comment, like where you at, how is your transition going. Mine has been a bit, it's overwhelming a bit because you want to understand this concept. It just feels so complex, especially coming from a non-technical background. But day by day, you just learn, you take it in, you learn from it, you make mistakes. But I enjoy that aspect of struggling, but sometimes I struggle until I have to find help from somewhere else. Yeah. So yeah, it has loaded up. So we're going to move this into full screen so that you can see how. So we've moved it to the full screen so that you can see very well. So let us move on. So we've completed task 3. Which website breach was the Roku? Yeah, so it was Roku.com. Then now we move to task 4, cracking the cracking basic hashes. There are multiple ways to use John the Ripper to crack simple hashes. We walked through a few before moving on to cracking some ourselves. The basic syntax is John, then option specifies the options you want to use, then the file path, that is the file containing the hash you're trying to crack. So this is just like the path that you follow to crack the hashes. So it's John, that is sort of mentioning the John the Ripper platform, and then the option specifies the options you want, then the file path, automatic cracking. John has built-in features to detect what type of hash it's being given and to select the appropriate rules and formats to crack it for you. This isn't always the best idea as it can be unreliable, but if you can't identify what hash type you're working with, and want to crack it, it can be a good option. To do this, use the following syntax. So if you move through the previous rooms, there is a way you can find out the type of hash it is. Like there's a way you can crack the hash. Not it's using hashcat. That is what an example they can use. You'll understand this if you've had the previous experience with the previous rooms that have been mentioned. Another way to crack the hashes, which is using the hashcat. But now with the hashcat, you need to know what hash algorithm was used for you to be able to crack the hash. So with John, they're saying it's not a must, but it's recommended if I'm not wrong. Yeah. As they're saying, it has built-in features to detect what type of hash it's been given and to select the appropriate rules and formats to crack it. But they're saying it isn't always the best idea as it can be unreliable. But if you can't identify the hash type you're working on and want to crack it, it can be a good option. To do this, use the following syntax. So this is the syntax that you use. Specify using the syntax like the what you're going to feed the command line for you to crack the hash. So it's John, yeah, mentioned in the John. Then the word list specifies using word list mode, reading from the file that you supply in the provided path, then pass through the word list you're using. In this example, we're going to use a raw queue word list. So example usage is John, then the word list. This is the path where we find the raw queue.txt, then the file that we want to crack, and that's it. So identifying hashes. Sometimes John won't play nicely with automatically recognizing and loading the hashes, but that's okay. We can use other tools to identify the hash and then set John to a specific format. There are multiple ways to use to do this. You can use an online hash identifier or this. There's an example. There's this site you can go into it. Then I like to use a tool called hash identifier Python tool that is super easy to use and will tell you what different types of hashes the one you enter is likely to be giving you more options if the first one fails. This is just different ways to identify your hashes. If John is not giving you a clear like type of hash that you have and you're dealing with, you can use this stuff, these tools. I mean, to identify what hash you're dealing with. I mean, to use hash identifier, you can use wget or cal to download the and then to download this, which is what is put here from its GitLab page. Then launch it with this and enter the hash you're trying to identify. It will give you a list of the most probable formats. These two steps are shown in the terminal below. Format specific cracking. Once you've identified the hash you're dealing with, you can tell John to use it while cracking the provided hash using the following syntax. So yeah, the format and the word list. So now this is when you want to crack the hash and you want to tell John what specific hash you're cracking. If you don't want to, because as I've mentioned, John sometimes cannot be correct and it can prove tough to identify what hash it is just when John automatically identifies it. So it's better if you know the specific hash type you're dealing with. So this is the format that you use when you have the hash that you when you've identified the hashes you're dealing with. But if not, this part, if you want John to automatically identify and crack the hash on its own, then you remove this part as they have mentioned here. You see, there's no now format. There's no format in this syntax. But if you have the if you want to specifically tell John this is the format that you're cracking, then this is the syntax that you use. Uh-huh. So yeah, when you tell John to use formats, if you're dealing with a standard hash type, the example, you have to prefix it with row to tell John you're just dealing with a standard hash type. Though this doesn't always apply. To check if you need to add a prefix or not, you can list all of John formats using John list and either check manually or grep your hash type using something like this. So yeah, some of these things you'll have to read to get the concept of it. Now that you have the syntax, modifier, and methods for cracking hashes, try it yourself. The files are located Here in task 4 on the attached virtual machine, what type of hash is hash1.txt? Question 1. What type of hash, sorry, what type of hash is hash1.txt? So we want to identify what type of hash1.txt in task 4. So we will go to our command line and then ls. Then we'll move to cd, join the Ripper. Join the Ripper, the basics. What a name. Then ls. So they've said it's in task 4. Task 4, cd, task 04. Oh, I've misspelled it. Sorry. cd task 04. ls. So first to identify, so we want to identify the hash1.txt. So to find what the hash is, what hash type it is, we'll use, as they mentioned, if you do not know the type, you'll use, it's already downloaded in this attack box, so no need to download it again. This is what they had given us before, as you can see. Let me just show you here. This is what they had mentioned. So this is a way of downloading it, but it has already been downloaded on the on what on the what it has already been downloaded on the attack box. Sorry, my mind is all over the place. So yeah, so we need to first find the hash for hash1.txt, and then we will run it through this python 3, this one, python 3 hash id.py. So to find the cat, so to find the hash value, we'll just view the contents of hash1.txt. So now we have the hash. We have the hash value for this file, hash1.txt. And then now to know the type of hash it is, we'll feed it into the hash ID here, the hash id.py. So to load it, you do python 3, then hash id.py. And then we feed it this hash. It's already pasted here. And here it is. They're giving us the possible hashes that this could be, but ideally these are the least possible. All this list is the least possible, but the possible hashes are MD5 and this one. So the answer comes to what? I didn't get to show you this. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't think you were able to see this. What I did is just to find, I don't know if I can do it again. I'll have to go through it because I wasn't sharing my screen. So control C. No, it's control C. So what I did was ls. So we need to find the hash value of this of this of this hash1.txt first. So to do that, we'll just check in the contents of that file, which is cat hash1.txt. Now it has already given us the hash value for that file, which is this. And then Now to know what type of hash it is, we're going to input it into the hash id.py. So to run through that, we do python 3 hash id.py. And then now we input this hash. We input this hash. And then that's it. And then we press enter. So these are the list of what possible hash it could be. So they start with the possible hashes, which is MD5, and this one, and these now are the list of the possible least possible hash. So yeah, that's it. So it's MD5. We're going to input that, and then it's going to be MD5. This one. So what is the cracked value of hash1.txt? So now we're going to use John. And to do this, just a second, we're going to first of all clear. Oh, sorry. Control C, then clear. What am I doing? So they want us to crack the hash. They want us to crack the hash and hash1.txt. They want us to crack the hash that we've just identified is an MD5. So what was the syntax? It was John. And now that we know the format, so we're going to use the format whereby we input the format also. So it's going to be John and the format, sorry, the format equals to raw MD5. No, there needs to be some space, man. Raw MD5, and then we go to the word list. Which word list were we using? We were using the raw q.txt. So we're just going to input that file path to the word list. This is the file path. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. I keep messing up with this. So the file path is this one here. The file path is this to the word list. That is the roq.txt path. We're going to use this, copy, and then we come here and then we paste it. And then we input the file that we want to crack, which is hash1.txt here. So we put hash1.txt. Ah, what is this? Is it not raw? What do we do? What are we supposed to do? Raw MD5. Yeah, oh, I forgot to put an hyphen. I forgot to put a hyphen. So it's John format is equals to raw MD5. And then we're just gonna copy paste this because we are lazy. And then we do that. And the password has been cracked. It's biscuit. It's the biscuit that is the password. Biscuit is the password, and here we go. It's the biscuit. So it's the same for what type of hash is. So for the next question, what type of hash is hash2.txt? So there's a hint. I think here we don't need to use the row. Write the name without the dash. What does that mean? Write the name without the dash. Okay. what is hash two, hash two, hash two? What is hash? Okay, so I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I think I had lost my screen sharing video. So yeah, I'm back. Which question were we at? I think we were at question three. What type of hash is hash2.txt? We're just going to go through the same process as we did before, is to identify the hash first and then put it into the hash identifier platform. So it's going to do is clear first, then ls. So this is, we want to identify which type of hash this file is, hash2.txt. So to do that, we're going to find the content first of what's in hash2.txt. So this is the hash. So to find out what type of hash it is, we're going to input it into this py file, which is, the syntax for it is Python 3, then we do hash id dot py. So that is going to open up that platform, and then we're going to input this hash value for hash2.txt. What is going on, man? So it has already pasted here, and then we're just going to find out what type of hash it is. So as before, these are the possible hashes and then list possible. So the possible is SHA-1, but as they had mentioned on their hint, we are not supposed to put the dash, so it's SHA-1. So what is the cracked value of hash2.txt? The cracked value of hash2.txt, you already know it is SHA-1. So what we do is Control C to clear that. So to find out, to crack the hash, we do John, then what format it is. I'm such in a hurry. I'm in such a hurry, sorry. So it's format, and the format is SHA-1, right? The format is that. Then we do the word list. The word list is, so we do the path to the word list. The path to the word list is this. I just usually copy and paste. It's this. I'm not sure if you can just put, actually it's the path to the word list. So we are just going to, it's not actually the word list, but the path to it. So this is the path to the raw queue list. And then now what is the file we're trying to crack is hash2.txt. Then we do that. Kangaroo is the password. Here it is. I am sorry, it's my first time doing this. I did not show this path again. Oh man, we're gonna have to do it again. So it's, sorry, but here's the answer. It's kangaroo, but I wasn't sharing this this page, so I have to do it again. So it's John. The format is row, then SHA-1, and then the word list is equals to that. So I'm just going to copy and paste this thing. The word list is raw queue, which I usually just copy and paste from the example there. So it's, the word list is equals to this. You're supposed to input the path to the word list, which is this, and then the file that you're cracking, which is hash2.txt. Then you just do enter. What did I do wrong again? What did I do wrong again? Isn't this just the same thing as this? So what is going on? I think it's not going to crack again. It's not going to because we've already done it up here. I'm not sure, but this is the same thing. This syntax is what it's the same thing as this, and it's going to provide the answer. The answer is this: kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo. I think there's an issue if you do it again. I don't know. Cracked one hash is in home. Use show. I think it's because I've already cracked it, so it's saying no password hashes left to crack. Thinking that's it. So the answer is kangaroo. Kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo. So it's the same for the other ones. You check the type and yeah, it's the same thing. So these hints are usually just there to help you through them. So you can try this. The same format that we've done. I think it's the same thing, just telling you. I think there was one here where we didn't need to input the format, which is not SHA-512. I don't know. You won't need the row prefix for this one. Yeah, so it's just using the hints and the same syntax. I don't know if I should go through all of them, but yeah, it's the same thing. It is the same thing that we go through, that we've done with the first two examples, is what you do for the third one now. But for the last one, they're saying we don't use the row prefix for this one. So what we'll do, okay, let us do this last one. What type of hash is hash4.txt? So what we will do is, let's see, clear, and then we do ls, then we do hash4.txt. So to find out cut hash4.txt, then that's the hash, and then we will input it into this identifier, which is python 3, then hash id.py, and then we'll open up that, and the hash is this. It's a very long hash. So how are we going to copy paste this? Will we be able to copy paste it? Yes, we did. And now it's the possible hashes is the SHA-512 and the whirlpool. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right word. And yeah, and they're saying here, they've given you a hint, it's not this, so it's the whirlpool. As I'm mentioning, I'm sorry I'm going back and forth with these screens. I'm still not used to this, but as they've said, it's not SHA-512 because we have two possible hashes. We have two possible hashes, which is SHA-512 and whirlpool, and they're saying it is not. It is not the SHA-512, so it's the whirlpool. So what is the cracked value of hash4.txt? And the hint here is we do not use the row prefix for this one. So what we do is Control C, and then we're going to do ls. Then now it's John, right? The format is equals to, now we're not going to put row and then hyphen and then what type of hash it is. We're just going to do format is equals to whirlpool, then the word list, And then the word list is equals to, we use this as I mentioned before. I normally just copy paste this path because typing it every now and then is exhausting. So we just copy it and then we paste it here. And then the file is hash 4.txt. Colossal is the password. Colossal is the password, people. Colossal is the password. I'm not sure if I'm saying it even rightly, but yep, that's it. And then now we move to task 5. Now that we understand the basic syntax and the usage of John the Ripper, let's move on to cracking something a little bit more complicated, something that you may even want to attempt if you're an actual penetration test or red team engagement. Authentication hashes are the hashed versions of passwords stored by operating systems. It is sometimes possible to crack them using our brute force methods. To get your hands on these hashes, you must often already be a privileged user, so we will explain some of the hashes we plan on cracking as we attempt them. So the ATLM is, as they've said, authentication hashes are hashed versions of passwords stored by the operating system. So NTLM is stored by the Windows password, and you need privilege access for you to be able to access those files. So yeah, you'll read through this, it's a bit of history about the NTLM. Now we move to the practical part. Now that you know the theory behind it, see if you can use the techniques you practiced in the last task and the knowledge of what type of hash this is to crack the ntlm.txt file located in task 5. What do we need to set as the format flag in order to crack this hash? Is NT because it's an NTLM file, so it's just NT. That is easy. What hint did they give? It only has 2 characters. NT, I think maybe someone would have written NTLM, but it's NT. What is the cracked value of this password? So what we're going to do is crack the value of it, and so now we won't be needing to use the Python thing, the Python file to find out which type of file it is, because we've already we've already been told what type of file hash type it is, which is NT. So we're just going to move to cracking it using John. So it's in task 5, if I'm not wrong. Have they said it's in task 5? Well, let us see. Cat, then task 05. Oh, it's CD. We're going to change the directory. Sorry. 05. Then ls to C. Yeah, so it's here. ntlm.txt. So what's next? So we're going to crack the hash, which is John, then format. And the format equals to, I don't know if we put row, but let's see. Row nt, and then we move to word list. I'm also still learning, as I had mentioned. So yeah, going to be a bit of back and forth, but I think we put raw. I'm still not sure which I think they had mentioned that you can check sort of the man page for this to see which ones are there. I'm not sure. So I just for the time being I'm trying to figure it out. So I either put, and if it's not a must then I remove it. So its format, which is row, is equals to empty in the word list. As I had mentioned, we just copy paste this path, the path to the word list. Where is it? Where is it? I think it's in task 4. which is this. Where is it? Where is it? I should probably copy it somewhere which is easy to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because going back to a different task does not make sense. Anyone has an idea of how I can do this? Kindly let me know in the comment section below. And then we paste it here. And then the file name is ntlm.txt. What is that? What is that? Unknown option. What do they mean by unknown option? Are we not supposed to go through it through? Okay, let's just see. Let's just, as I said, I'm winging it. I'm still learning. I did this room a couple of days ago, so I'm still also just a beginner. I'm going to make mistakes. ntlm.txt without the file path. Is the issue with row and T, or this was not supposed to be complicated? Unknown option. Word list is equals to, yeah, and then what are we just not supposed to be? Guys, it's these struggles that I enjoy anyway. Format is equals to NT, then the word list. Oh, now I see. It's word list. I had written world list. It's man. You see the smallest mistakes is gonna put you in trouble. I don't know if I'm supposed to put, man, what kind of mistake is that? What kind of mistake is that? So ideally I'm thinking we were not supposed to be even putting the row, and it was word list, not world list. The answer is mushroom. The password is mushroom. Then now we move to this task 6. This room is so long. Task 6. Task 6. So for this, cracking hashes from etc shadow. This is the where Linux stores it. For Windows is ntlm. For this one is the etc shadow file. So you can just read through. It also stores other information such as the date of last password change and the password expiration information. Then unshadowing. John can be very particular about formats it needs the data to be enabled to work with it. For this reason, to crack the etc shadow password, you must combine it with the etc password file for John to understand the data it's being given to do this. So what they're saying is the format in which the hashes are stored in etc shadow is different from what John can understand. So for you to be able to input it into John, for John to be able to crack it, you need to change it, sort of, to help John understand what language it is. I think that's what they mean. So with that, to do this, we use a tool built into the John suite of tools called Unshadow. The basic syntax of Unshadow is as follows: Unshadow, path to password, and path to shadow. So it's Unshadow invokes the Unshadow tool. The file that contains the copy of the etc password file you've taken from the target machine, and the path to shadow, the file that contains the copy of the etc shadow file you've taken from the target machine. Yo, the English is Englishing. So example usage is unshadow this and this to unshadow.txt. When using unshadow, you can either use the entire etc password and assuming you have them available, or you can use the relevant line from each. For example, contains the etc line for the root. Man, these are English, but you can read through them. Contains the etc shadow line for the root user. So yeah, we can then feed the output from the unshadow. In our example case, hold the unshadow.txt directly into John. We should not need to specify a mode here as we have made the input specifically for John. However, in some cases, you need to specify the format as we have done previously using this syntax. So for this, it's John, it's the same syntax, but now you add the unshadowed.txt. The unshadowed.txt is the file that has been translated from the etc shadow, that is whereby the Linux stores its password hashes, to a format that John will understand. So that is why you take it into, if I'm not wrong. Now see if you can follow the process to crack the password hash of the user provided in etc hashes.txt file. Good luck, the files are located in task 6. Task 6. So let's just figure it out. Let us figure it out as we move along. LS. So it's in task 6. Task 06. I'm so sorry, my typing skills, my mind is way ahead of my hands, so keep making mistakes. So they're located here. These are it. So it will be cat etc hashes dot txt. But I don't think we're supposed to find the hash because either way we already have the. I don't think we need to input the type of hash it is because we already have it, so there's no need to cut it, but whatever, man. So what we do is John, and then we don't need the format. Now it's going to be the word list. Word list is equals to this. Let me just copy from up here. And then the file is etc hashes.txt. And here we go. This is the password 1234 for the root. That is the password 1234. Yay. Done it. But these things we need to read to be able to understand some of the concept and grasp it. I haven't also fully grasped the content of it, but slowly by slowly we get to grasp the content. Do not feel like, yeah, at first it feels like it's you'll never get to understand them, but slowly by slowly you keep repeating the content, you keep just doing your own research and even just taking notes. This is my way of taking notes, by the way. I'm not great at it, I'm still learning. I do not even have any certificate, but this is my way of learning. So yeah, so these things you have to read for them, but some of these things have already been done for us, like changing from one format that John will understand. We need root privileges, which we do not have, so we'll just have to input what they've already given us. So we go to task 7. So we've been using John word list mode to brute force simple and not so simple hashes, but John also has another mode called a single crack mode. In this mode, John uses only the information provided in the username to try and work out possible, yeah, heuristically by slightly changing the letters and the numbers contained within the username word mangling. The best way to explain single crack mode and word mangling is to go through an example. Consider markers as the username. So they've said there's another way to crack the hashes are using is like the hash value and such stuff. There's now word mangling whereby they're giving you an example markers which most people use. That's where they we insist, like people insist on creating really good password because it can be used from your username. If you use your name and you find some of the password, how do you put that? Guidelines for companies is not to use your name, not to such stuff, so that you can be protected from such attacks. So the username is markers, and it will, how do I put it? It will try and use different formats. Did you like this markers one, markers two, markers three, etc. Capital letters, small, like that. This technique is called word mangling. John is building its dictionary based on the information it has been fed and uses a set of rules called mangling rules, which define how it can mutate the word it started with to generate a word list based on relevant factors for the target you're trying to crack. This exploits how poor passwords can be based on information about the username or the service they are logging into. So, geckos. John implementation of word mangling also features compatibility with Gecko's field of the Unix operating system as well as the Unix-like operating systems such as the Linux. Gecko stands for General Electric Comprehensive Operating System. In the last task, we looked at the entries for both, which is etc shadow and etc password. Looking closely, you'll notice that the fields are separated by a colon. The fifth field in the user account is the Gecko's field. It stores general information about the user, such as the user's full name, office number, and telephone number, among others. John can take information stored in those records, such as full name and home directory, to add to a list to generate when cracking etc hashes with single crack mode. Basically, what they're saying is you can use your username, where you live, your office address to sort of figure out what your password could be. To use the single crack mode, we roughly use the same syntax that we've used before. For example, if you wanted to crack the password of the username Mike using the single mode, we'd use John, single, the format, and the path to file. Single, this flag lets John know you want to use the single hash cracking mode. And then the format, as always, it is vital to identify the proper format. So Jim, so example uses is John, then we were using the single crack mode, and then the format and the file that you want to crack. And note on file formats in single crack mode. If you're cracking hashes in single crack mode, you need to change the file format that you're feeding John for it to understand what data to create a word list from. Let's read that again. If you're cracking hashes in single crack mode, you need to change the file format that you're feeding John for it to understand what data to create a word list from. You do this by prepending the hash with the username that the hash belongs to. So according to the above example, we will change the file hashes.txt from this. The username is Mike to this. So what they're saying is, as we had mentioned before, w- we are using the single crack mode where we're using the username. So you need to that first you need to let John know you're using the single crack mode, and then for you to use the single crack mode, you need to change the file that you're feeding John for it to understand what data to create from the word list. Like it will check like this name and the username and such stuff. Just because with the single crack mode you're using the username. I'm not sure how to better explain it, but if you know how to explain it better, you can go to the comment section and help your people out. So now that you're familiar with the syntax for John single crack mode, access the hash and crack it, assuming that the user it belongs to is called Joker. The file is located in task 7. Task 7, task 7. So task 7. So it's going to be and let's clear this. Sorry about that again. I keep losing my screen sharing video. So what we're going to do is that clear. Then we're going to go to task 7. Then ls. Then cd. Then task 07. Then ls. So we have this file, right? And we need to sort of, as they have mentioned here, a note on file formatting saying if you're cracking hashes, you need to change the file format that you're feeding John for it to understand. If since it's using the username and you want to crack the username for Joker, now if and we, what how do I put it? For the single crack mode, you're using usernames to figure out like what the password could possibly be. So for you to tell like John, I want you to run through this using the username, you need to change the content of the file. So how we do that is, so for the hash value of task of the hash file here, it's cat hash 07.txt. Sorry about that. So this is the file hash, but we need to tell John this is the username we are looking for. Try and figure it out. So to do that, we're going to do nano. That is the syntax for sort of editing your file. So nano hash 07.txt. So for the name, it's Joker, if I'm not wrong, right? It's the username is Joker. So we're going to put in Joker at the beginning. Joker, and then do we put what? We put, yeah, columns. We put columns on there to separate it from that. And then we save. No. What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Yeah. So, what are we doing next? I'm sorry, my mind is everywhere. How do we save on this thing? Yo, this is getting hard. How am I forgetting this? How do we save? How do we save on? Now let's see. Let's see if we actually saved it. Then cat hash 07.txt. Yeah, we did. We made changes. I'm still not sure how we do that. We have made those changes, and then now what we do is crack the hash. John, what is the format? It's a single crack mode. Oh god. Oh god. See what I'm trying to tell you? It is not easy. Single crack mode. We need to feed John. We need to let John know that we're doing the single crack mode. So it's that. Now, how do you know what type of password this is? I wasn't sure, But let's just wing it without knowing what. Let's see if John can automatically do it without. Can we use it without putting in the format? Let us see if it will work without putting the format. So it's single, and then we put the format or we do not. What do we do? What do we do? Let us try it. Single, but we need to find out what type of hash this is. And we've already made, I don't know, do we really need to? Single and then hash, hash 07. I know this is wrong. I'm just trying to figure it out. We need to know what type of hash this is. It's not mushroom. But I've already changed this. So what do we do? I've already changed this. I'm not sure what type of hash this is. Can we just assume it's 256 and see how it is? Because I think we need to find out, but I've already changed the content of that, so I'm not sure if we can find out what hash it is. So we're going to do John format, John single, then format equals to go to SHA-256, SHA-256. Then the file is, what was the file's name? What was I think it was hash 07.txt. I don't know. John single format is equals to go SHA-256. Now there's a path we're supposed to put in. Really, do we really need to part? We need that file path. I don't know if we can find it somewhere here. Let's see. We need the word list. Man, I don't know. I'm starting to lose my cool here. I talk too much, I'm losing my cool. Trying to figure it out. Then let's do hash 07.txt. Oh, what have I done wrong? What am I doing wrong? See what we're doing? I know you can see what I've done wrong. I know you can see what I've done wrong, my people. I think I'm going crazy. I think I need a break. What is going on? This was so easy. I don't know why I'm not getting it right now. Let us see what the hint is. Remember to identify the hash type. I know, but I didn't. Now what do we do? Do we start this whole process again or what? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I don't know how to undo it. Let's see if we can. Python 3. Okay, what we're going to do is clear. Then Python 3 hash id.py. And then what am I doing? Cut hash 07.txt. Okay, we have the hash. Then we do Python 3 hash id.py. Why is this thing testing me? Do I really have to go back to? Man, so tough. So many things that I need to do. That was it. Was it in task 4? Hash Python 3 hash id.py. And then you put this hash to figure out what it is. What do you mean not found? Ah, man. I am going crazy. I'm going crazy with this. Oh, these small mistakes that we make that create such a huge impact in our lives. Because why is this thing telling me there is no hash not found? Like what? What do you mean it's not found? There we go, it's found. It's MD5 and I was using the just man, walk with me, don't give up on me. Then ls, then we're going to go to task 7 and then ls again to see what it's there, then cut hash 07.txt. So we already have that, we already changed it. So we're going to crack the hash, which is John. We're doing the single crack mode, and the format is equal to MD5. And what next? What next do we do? What do we do next? It's the format and the path, right? No, we don't need the path, right? Because we're not using the word list, if I'm not wrong. We're using the username, right? See, just took me a million years to get here. So it's Joker 3R. That is the password, man. Password. So let's stop here for a second and we'll continue with this in part 2 because the time is going and I'm running late for a meeting. So yeah, we'll do part 2. I'll put out a second video. If you want that, drop a like, comment, and just to thank you for being here. I know it was all over the place because it was my first time doing this. I am still also new to cybersecurity. I am so new, I'm fresh. So, as you have seen my struggles, but don't give up. I will not also give up. I will try and learn every day, and this is my way of learning. Share the video, go through it. Just don't be discouraged with my lack of understanding of this room that well, but at least we go through together. What I'm learning through this entire experience is to not give up, to continue just learning and learning every day and making those mistakes. As you have seen, I am making a lot of mistakes, a lot of them, but I do not give up. One day I'll be those people who you see are experts right now are here. They were once here. No one starts knowing things immediately. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes before we get there. So just continue pushing forward and comment and like. Okay, bye. See you on the part two as we complete the rest of the tasks. Yeah, see you. Bye.